In a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house, the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of slurping on people's necks and serious men. The moment I press record, the intro just drops. Hello and welcome to Hole in the Wall Book Club. I'm Anthony and
I'm Alex.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. You think we get better at this eventually?
Is your shirt purple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been rocking
I
out
was
the
just
full
seeing if it
purple
matched the hair, or if I was just being tricked by the hair.
look. No, that's what I'm doing today. Yeah, we're talking about a single chapter today. And I know it's your favorite type, the lot.
Was it
the
10?
lot 3. Yeah, chapter 10, the lot 3. Which is, I think, the biggest chapter we've had so far.
Yeah, at least in the little e-bookish thing, it was roughly 80 pages.
Yeah, and in Audible, it's like hour and a half. So, and we start with another super poetic intro. I actually like this one better than the other ones, at least. I feel like more information was given in this one.
I'm not even sure if this was annoying because it was doing that whole poetic thing. Rather, I think by this one, I'm now starting to realize why they're annoying. It's that they're like really wordy.
Yeah.
In the sense that it feels like he's forcing the mood he wants to set for you by the next, subsection, whatever it's numbered. I think that's why they annoy me. It's like
they're so stylistically different than the rest of the book.
They could be more. What's often being portrayed in any of them could be like a really cleverly written paragraph or two, but instead it's this long-winded. And the da-da-da, and this followed this, and the wind of this, and the tree of this.
This one was all about darkness and secrets. And, near the end of it, we do get a bit, talking about all the town's secrets. And once again, setting up as a character. The town as a character.
I think that's it. And this might actually kind of flow through this book in general that might bother me is he kind of keeps telling you how awful everything's supposed to be instead of showing you how awful everything is. Right. It bounces between the two. Through this entire chapter, you'll get multiple instances of people doing shit, which could point out that they were crappy or that darkness is here. But then you proceed it with a chapter where you're right before, or a little subsection, where you want to call them part thing, where right before I show you all these people doing terrible things, let me just really lay on the darkness of this town.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, when the vampire dude's bumped into, he talks about the darkness. I kind of feel like you don't need to tell us there's so much darkness here. We could kind of get that from the story so far.
Yeah. And near the end of this section, he starts going through the town has all these secrets, and the vast majority of this, I think, is just setting more tone setting. Hey, look how bad people really are. It's the town has its secrets. They know old Albie Crane, who I'm pretty sure we've never heard about before. There's several people in here who's hey, here's a name drop and a dark secret about them. You've never heard about them, and you will likely never hear of them again, to set the tone.
Especially since we've already been shown so many dark secrets before we're being told how many dark secrets are in this town.
Right.
We've just been seeing chapter to chapter of these things. And now for you to reset the tone about how dark this town is, it's a little late. We're kind of already there.
Yeah. There was a bit where I can't remember who it was, and I'm not going to bother looking it up, but where it talks about some person's dad and how he died. And it's and now he's dead, much like his son will be by the end of this story. I'm what the fuck was that? That felt so out of place, right?
Yeah.
But I think the important things we learn here, is this where we learn that Marston was writing letters, and before he killed himself, he put all the letters in the fire.
Yeah,
and it's definitely implied he was writing.
And that when he killed his wife, the mystery was that she was actually begging him to, and that when he was hanging, he was actually smiling.
Yeah,
basically all the.
And they tell who he was writing letters to, and I didn't go back and check, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it was the name that the FBI said Barlow had used at one point. I think
something like that.
It's Barlow.
It's clear.
That feels like it.
They never say the name, but they give other
and
names.
You're that's doubly reinforced because towards the very end of the chapter, when he bumps into Corey, he makes the comment that he knows this town as a result of correspondence with someone in this town.
Right.
And so you can pretty much guess it's him.
We finally got our link between Marston and Marlowe.
They were just straight up talking to each other.
Which is kind of weird because this whole book has set the Marston house up as a beacon of evil. And it's like, I mean, not so much a beacon as the dude who lived there wrote letters. It's a beacon in that the postal service picked up from it.
Exactly.
It was a weird whole thing, but yeah. And the other, this section's weird. This section's super weird because it's a bunch of information that just isn't important. We find out that Hal, your favorite little farm kid, jerks off a lot.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's key info.
But then, in the next couple paragraphs, that we find out that the baby, Randy McDougal, the 11-month-old, that, or that 10-month-old, or that 10-month-old Randy McDougal did not even struggle when Danny Glick slipped through his bedroom window and plucked the baby from his crib. So, we have now learned that infants are the Capri Sun of the vampire world.
That appears to be the case.
And, my God. We're going to jump into this in a second, but we have a 10-month-old vampire. We don't actually see that happen, but at this point, we're not even going to give the benefit of the doubt. That kid, that 10-year-old, the 10-month-old is a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird section. Any more on that one?
Not really. It also just runs. It's very easy to just passively skip things here and there because it's not formatted as an infinite run-on sentence, but you read it as if there is no periods. He's just going do, and it just all mashes together.
No, straight up. I know that this is a purely audio medium, so I'm going to hold up a book and point. From here to here, there's not a period. And that is over a page.
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels.
It's a big run-on sentence in the form of a paragraph, and then a semicolon, and then another paragraph that starts with or.
I am starting to wonder what it must feel like to be King's editor, because both of these books so far are just all over the place in form.
Yup.
This is speech. Nope. This is a thought. Nope. This is the actual text of the story.
Flex,
oh no.
flex.
Yeah. No. I'm gonna randomly interject. Oh, someone's gonna stop. This must be a pain to.
Yeah. No. This book stylistically shifts constantly depending on in this we have an omniscient narrator, which is something we don't have anywhere except the first section of every Lot chapter. It's super weird.
Yeah.
I've never seen a book that's okay, we're going to do third person focused on Ben. We're going to do third person focused on Susan. Omniscient narrator that acknowledges that you're reading a book and points out someone's going to die by the end of this book. What the fuck is happening? But
It feels like it's King kind of borrowing from anything that influenced him and kind of peppering them all together in sort of some unified slapdash kind of thing.
I gotta say, I've read a lot of King. I've read a lot of King's later stuff as well. I've not read it with the intention to talk about and analyze it. I don't remember this happening in his later stuff. I think this is him finding his groove.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious when we get to The Shining and on, if maybe there's still quite a few more of in this town books, but if maybe he figures out a flow. It's kind of the flow. He's kind of gotten this part 1, part 2, part 3 system kind of figured out, and that's how he wants to deliver the story. But I think I had mentioned this problem before, I think, on the podcast. He has this weird thing with telling you everything awful about to happen before it happens.
Yeah.
Carrie did this to you constantly.
Right.
You're informed of TK powers almost immediately, and then just given everything that's about to happen. And this has the same.
Remember, Carrie, one of the first lines was Carrie's a fat cow. They wouldn't have ridden it if they knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah. And this has the same kind of quality in that it's either telling you ahead of time, or it's springing up the brain. Because how many people show up as just, oh yeah, okay, that guy's a vampire. Oh, okay,
Floyd.
yeah, right.
Floyd's in.
Yeah.
You
out of
have
nowhere
been waiting to see what's going on with Floyd. We knew it was going to come to a head, that there was going to be some kind of confrontation because of Ben and Sue, and then it just all happened in the background until he just tried to successfully beat the shit out of Ben.
Yeah.
It's weird. And I'm being real harsh on this section. I personally actually liked this chapter. I don't know what your overall opinion was. I like where the story's moving finally. But I just want to be harsh here because they always feel so out of place.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of at a point where it's like it was good within like the book, but I may not be the biggest fan of. It feels like the ending is going to feel like 30 Days of Night, and then it's just going to be a slaughter fest.
Where it seemed like you personally seem more interested in like one monster or a couple.
Yeah, and then it would have been a little slow creep, and then the fear would have set in. But like this book had a weird thing where it was like, all right, when's it coming? When's it coming? When's this guy going to get here? When's this going to happen? And then as soon as he does, it's like, you're a vampire, you're a vampire, you're a vampire. And it's like instantly the town seems slightly
3 new vampires by the end of this.
Yeah. It's starting to almost instantly feel like the town's being overrun by, thralls or whatever they might actually be. But
let's not even pretend.
Then they keep saying this, he like it's a lord. And then you saw the Lord of the Flies thing earlier. And you're getting this really weird, like, these are vampires, but the story itself feels far more akin to if a warlock came into town and started converting people to a Satanist cult.
Yeah,
more than it feels like vampires.
I am still having so much trouble getting past the sacrifices that seem to heavily imply what was needed to create Danny Glick as a vampire.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't seemed to happen again, even though we have now, at this point, have 4 new vampires, if we count Floyd from last episode.
I'm also kind of confused about we saw it in one of the earlier chapters where what's his name? The guy who ran the dump.
Dud.
When he goes and bumps into that, where he's,
5 vampires. Dud's a vampire.
Lures them in and says some things to them, and suddenly they blah, 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 and then they always describe it as falling asleep. I'm confused with the point of the vampire, poking through your mind, finding the thing that means the most to you, grabbing onto it, and then converting you is meant to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing that could just spring down and bite you and turn you and be done with it. I'm actually kind of confused by this whole ritual of seducing you into being bitten.
I'm wondering if you have to accept it to be turned. Maybe that's why Danny was different and there was a sacrifice. Because, like, every other vampire that we've seen the turning process, there was an acceptance. Well, we'll get into that more here in a bit.
Yeah.
Because we saw Dud, and Dud accepted that.
Right.
But jumping into our next section, we visit the best parents in Salem's Lot. We're back at the McDougalls.
Yeah.
And that starts out with, like, Sandy McDougal waking up and immediately like, something's wrong. I feel the sun. And I was like, wait, when the fuck did she turn into a vampire?
That's what it kind of felt like at first, too.
But
clearly playing with you.
That was actually, I actually liked that. Yeah. It was clever because I was like, whoa, hold up. And then it's almost immediately, she's freaking out because Randy always wakes her up before the sun.
This is pretty quick. She basically goes into the kid's room, finds him essentially tossed, I think it's essentially like a rag doll into a corner with his leg poking up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Walks over, picks up the kid, mentions that once again, like every other vampire we've encountered, they're almost pristine, weirdly pristine. Every bruise that she had given the baby was already healed and gone. There was just a lifeless color to it.
Right, to the point that I don't know how much of this was affected by the appearance or just purely freaking out. But, like, she tries to feed the kid.
It keeps going, wake up, come on, don't fool me like this. Gets some, I think, chocolate custard, something, Gerber stuff.
Yep. That's just
feeds
delicious.
It, even pushes the baby's mouth open to try to put some in, notices the baby's teeth, freaks her out.
Yep.
Very similar to what she did at the end of the last time we saw her, where she was in the kitchen and she was just going, thank goodness he didn't react. We'll be fine. It's the same sort of delusion. She's just trying to convince herself the kid's alive.
Yeah, there's a point in which she, like, yelling at the kid, like, kind of almost a mini echo of Danny Glick's funeral. That, stop fucking around. You're fine. Get up out of that grave. Anger instead of acceptance. Yeah. I gotta say, this is very much, like, I am... For personal reasons, I'm wildly hoping for this 10-month-old vampire to just kill his parents. I want that scene.
I thought it would be very possible, but the more this goes, I almost think it's probable. Like,
I think the dad's going to die. I think the mom's going to be a vampire.
That could happen.
I mean, we're going to get to this scene. Actually, it's next. But looking at what happens when we jump over to the Glick's house, it seems to be the pattern. Is there any more in this scene?
That's true. Not really.
Then we can jump right into that, because their next scene is the Glicks. And I loved this section. It was really well written in that, like, the whole it's all from the dad's perspective, whose name I just don't have him on the board, do I? Why didn't I put him on the board? All right. Well, it's all from like the dad's perspective, and he's going through like how he's dealing with the grief, which is essentially just sleeping. And then how his wife's dealing with the grief, which is obsessively cleaning every single thing in the house, and that she's been getting sicker and weaker looking. And I don't know, it was actually just like stepping away from the vampire Salem's Lot story. It was just really well written grief. It was just good. Like it felt honest and real. But I guess the storyline stuff here is that Marjorie Glick starts talking about these dreams she's had where Danny comes to her in the night and suckles on her teat like he did as a child. And there's a mention of like right when he was starting to teeth, and he kind of nips a little bit, but it feels kind of good. And there is a weird bit here where Mr. Glick starts being like, I know she's real sad, but damn, she's sexy. Right? Like, there's a point at which like she's crying into his arms, and he's like, why do I have a boner? Like, what? Why am I half-mast? I got chubs for you. God, that's a deep cut. We haven't talked about that song in a while. It's not a dream. I mean, this is.
It's not a dream. She looks sickly because of that. She avoids the sun hardcore. It's the same kind of setup you've been given to show everyone else who's turned.
Yeah,
who's been turned off screen, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to wonder if the aversion to going to a doctor is actually part of turning into a vampire, because she also like. He's like, hey, we got to go to the doctor. You look like shit. You can barely walk. She's like, no, it's just the sun. No doctor. She gets kind of aggressive, like, no doctor today. If it's not better soon, we'll go. And
maybe.
With Mike, I kind of just assumed it was like Mike being tough guy. I don't want to go to the doctor. I get that. But that's always become a recurring theme.
They definitely get a little lost in whatever it is that turns them, as their turns to be sort of like... What probably even makes her think that feels like a dream that she's having when he does that. That right. Kind of vampire mind clouding stuff.
Yeah. But all in all, this is a really good section. And it sets us up for Marjorie Glick's going to be a vampire. So looking at the scoreboard on that, we both guessed dead. So neither of us get points on that one. I mean, slight chance, but...
Yeah, she's probably...
Yeah. Again, with like it was with Floyd in the last section, I don't think there's red herrings anymore.
No, I don't.
I think if someone's seems like they're turning into a vampire, it's just happening.
Probably, yeah.
Which means I don't think we actually got any red herrings. So I think every person we're like, I think they're a vampire, and it seems like they're gonna be.
Yeah. Even preemptively, sort of like being a vampire before you're even willing to jump to that conclusion yet.
Right. But, so that's vampire number 2 that we're getting out of this section. At least she's an adult.
Yeah.
Like, and then from there we jump back to, Ben and Susan, back at the hospital still. Ben's still knocked out. And we had talked last time about how Susan went through the exact same acceptance process as Ben. This is even more so, because Ben did this. It was, I don't believe you. I saw something that makes me believe you. I don't want to believe you, but I'm getting there. And now I believe you. And then this is Susan's, like, last episode, we had that moment where she's like, oh, no, this is real. And then we jump into her being like, I mean, it's probably real, but I can't accept it.
The thing is that she does it even again. And I was actually ready to say that I have to admit I'm actually getting slightly annoyed with Susan functioning as the no, I just won't believe it. Because like the first couple times, okay, yeah, you're not going to just casually believe there's some vampires in your town. But by the end of this thing, she actually calls Ben at his bed. So I think it's the very end of the chapter, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Calls Ben in his bed to talk to him and say all these terrible things that are happening. And it's the same exact reaction from her. But no, this can't... It's like, come on, lady. How many of these do you need to see before you start thinking something could be happening?
Right. And there's a conversation here that I don't think we're going to be able to do justice. I actually liked it. I don't know how you felt about the can't conversation.
Yeah.
Where she keeps saying, I can't believe this. And Ben's like, stop with that word. Like, don't say can't, because you're just cutting off a whole possible reality. Like, get rid of that word out of your vocabulary, look at the facts, and let's figure this out.
Even explains it to her in the sense that he goes, I didn't believe, but then the window was open, and then the screen was punched out, and it's only locked from the outside. The pointing out that there's the point where the evidence just goes, you're being absurd by not taking this seriously.
Yeah, the only reason you are not accepting this is because you've decided not to.
Yeah.
And he kind of does...
Kind of like how, plant-based consumables are natural and healthy no matter what they are. Because they're natural and they came from the ground.
Absolutely.
I don't even care if that's on or not. It's just hilarious.
He's gonna start throwing shade. Just super vague shade. I'm sure our audience will love it. But like, this is a big chunk, but not really much happens. It's well written. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's not much to talk about here. I enjoyed reading this bit.
No, yeah, this was very much more reading it was enjoyable, not.
And it's kind of Ben and Susan being like, okay, let's just pretend and see. Pretend like they're really vampires and test it. It's kind of the exact conversation you have with Matt. Which
Oh, yeah. You don't see anything about anyone else visiting him again, which is odd, because remember the last time she asked Weasel and what's-her-face to visit?
Right, yeah, we didn't see Weasel.
No.
Huh. Oh, right, they talk about Floyd a little bit during this bit.
Oh, because he points out the oddness of Floyd coming to visit him wearing a hat, a long coat, and like rubber gloves or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Susan being like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I like this. He explains the outfit, and she's like, what? And he's like, well, the sun was out, it was shining on him, and I don't think he liked that. It was real good. We also find out Floyd's in the drunk tank currently.
Yeah.
Which brings us into our next section, which is Nolly, the deputy, just generally being a dick. I hate this dude. Because it starts with Nolly being like, okay, so Nolly goes over to the diner to get eggs for Floyd for breakfast. Because, he's in the prison. You don't want to let him starve. And Floyd's asleep, so Nolly just eats his eggs. Like, fuck him. Like, Nolly has, like, we haven't, like, revealed deep, dark secrets about Nolly. Like, he killed his wife or, he
what did you have him as? Did you have him as being a vampire?
I think, I have him as a vampire.
I think that statement early in the book, at least so far, of him being a go-getter and all that stuff feels very empty so far.
Yeah.
We were kind of set up to have for him to have a sort of a personality that has not manifested anywhere so far.
He's being, I think, very distinctly set up as just a dick. Like, you're not supposed to like him, but frankly, in comparison to everyone else in the town, he's not that bad.
No, not really.
He's casually a dick. He's not like, I light fires and shoot the rats while screaming about the town whore dick. Like, he's on the low end of the
although speaking of fires,
spectrum.
In that whole
Dick Spectrum
lore,
would be a good punk rock band name. Yeah.
In that whole sort of weird dump at the very beginning of the chapter, one of those is the pointing out that the Great Fire was started by someone, and
right.
Speaking of fire,
yeah, and like someone they didn't give a name to, which I keep saying they when I refer to Stephen King, as if he has a whole writing team.
It's that room of monkeys pounding on typewriters to get the next.
You know what they say? If you give a room of monkeys with typewriters enough cocaine, they'll write The Stand. That's a common saying, right?
I think so. I've heard it once or twice at least.
But what actually happens in this scene is Nolly eats Floyd's breakfast and then eventually I think brings him a coffee and finds him dead.
Eventually brings him food again because he eventually kind of goes, yeah, he does need to eat. I was eating it before because I was letting him sleep, but now he needs to get up and eat. And so he kind of rattles on his cage and is like, brought food, and then looks in and he looks pretty sick.
He's like, whoa, hold up. He's not moving, but he's kind of sexy. As soon as they die, they turn sexy. Except in the case of Marjorie Glick, who started turning sexy before she died.
Yeah. And then I think the sheriff
ends
up coming in because he's making such a racket, and then he tells the sheriff, hey, Oh, and he does have this one interesting thing. For quite a while before the sheriff shows up, he does this mind freeze where he can't decide whether or not to unlock the cell, and it's instigated by a show he had just watched where a criminal had deliberately faked illness in order to jump him. So he was frozen in this mindset of, if I open, am I going to get jumped or am I not going to get jumped? Should I bother? And it was all that wasting time that the sheriff eventually walks in and asks what the hell he's doing.
Like, what are you doing? Just staring at a dead dude? Well, yeah. Well, fucking stop. Do your job.
Yeah.
So Floyd's dead.
Yeah. Which you will see later, his being in the morgue / not being in the morgue.
Yeah. We get a little morgue scene at the end of this, which confirms he's a vampire.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping ahead, we get a scene at the morgue later where we find out both Floyd's body and Randy, the 10-month-old's body, are gone. So
they're just receiving a new body. They look down the hallway and see 2 of the doors from M to Z open. Check them, and that's the 2 people who are.
Yeah, there is a good moment there when they're like, check the nameplate, and it's like, Randy McDougal. What does this I mean next to it? Oh, that means it's an infant. Oh, we fucked. We lost an infant's dead body. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's jumping way ahead, but yeah. That's all that happens in that scene. So it's confirming these 2 are vampires. Which we've already given you the points for. You can celebrate all. I'm going to lose this trophy so fucking bad.
I don't know. There's some spots that could really.
Yeah. We didn't put Randy McDougal on the board because I didn't think that even needed to be debated. Like, I've read this book and I still would never have guessed that there was a 10-month-old vampire in it. Like,
Yeah.
Fucking wild. But this whole chapter is small sections in general that kind of one thing happens in each, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they do. And all of them usually kind of terrible, except for the normal Ben Susan thing.
Yep. I think this is if I remember correctly, I think this is the last lot in this section. I could be wrong, but I think it's the last lot chapter in part 2. So from here, it's probably just going to be hell breaking loose.
Yep.
And from there, I got to ask, we jump to the dump and we meet 2 characters, Franklin Bowden and Virgil Rathburn. Have we ever met them before? I couldn't remember meeting them. They're not on the board.
If they were met, they were as out of nowhere then as they are now.
Yeah.
I don't recall them. Because they're basically just described as 2 drunk dipshits.
Yep.
Who are coming. Basically, they're on their way to the dump because, what do they call it? Crappies?
Yep.
Which is essentially like your cans, your bottles, your crap you'd normally dump. And they get there and there's a thing on the gate that says that it's closed. And they're like, is it Saturday? Are they closed on Saturday? I'm pretty sure they're not. They're pretty sure they're open on Saturday.
There was
Saturday.
There was a great moment in the Saturday conversation where like it starts like, are they closed on Saturdays? And the other guy's like, yes, is it Saturday? And the other guy's like, yeah, it's Saturday. And then you get his internal thoughts for a second, like, I don't fucking know what day it is. I'm drunk as shit.
I believe
I'm
it's
just
like,
agreeing.
yeah, I believe it's like he doesn't know if it's Saturday or Tuesday.
Yeah. And they look at this sign on the gate and they're like, that sign won't stop me because I'm too drunk to read, and just drive through it?
Yep, plow through it.
Like,
and this whole time still remaining pissed at Dud for not being there and having it open.
Yep.
Because they end up pulling up.
Yeah, there's a moment there where the one guy's like, he's probably off getting drunk somewhere. Yeah. And the other guy's like, hey, Dud doesn't drink. I've never known him to drink. We're the drunks. Projection much?
Which they are actively doing while they're there. They at one point reach down under their seat to grab another beer hidden under it.
You gotta fill up that crappies. Yeah.
But they come in and it's kind of set some tone. There's seagulls reacting, but there doesn't seem to be anything else. It's eerily silent. They flip the truck around, dump it all out, but then they decide to go tell Dud what for not having been open, and they head to his little shack. And I believe they knock and start shouting for him, but he doesn't reply. I think the door's just ajar, or at least not locked.
It was hooked, but they broke it. And like,
right, it was only hooked from inside.
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't get. I keep doing it again. Stephen King didn't give a huge description of the lock, but the impression I got is it was just like one of those hook and eye loop.
Yeah,
things.
that's what it is.
Because it was super easy to break, but could only be locked from the inside, which was the important bit of that.
Yeah, they pop it open. It smells really weird in there, like sweet,
worse than good normally it smells.
Yeah, and they mention that they know bad smells well, but the place is insanely neat and organized.
Mm-hmm.
I believe after a while of fishing around, they both get real creeped out.
Yeah, because one of them points out, like, wait, that was locked from the inside. How the fuck did Dud get out?
And then he's like, window. And then he realizes the window is actually nothing more than a small hole cut into the wall. And then, like, with some sort of industrial stapler or something, plastic was just put over top of it. And he couldn't fit through it. It was too small a hole. Yeah, because of his hump. So they get freaked out. They turn around. They flee back to the truck. And then just kind of do the standard spook out of town.
Yeah.
Out of that area, though.
And then, like, as they're leaving, one of them's like, hey, have you ever gone to the dump and not seen a rat? Because I haven't, and we just did. So, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Dud's just eating all the rats. Rats are also a Capri Sun
either that,
in the
or if
vampire
we're
world.
getting weird, we can do, maybe someone's the Pied Piper kind of thing.
Oh.
Calling all the rats up into one.
I'm curious if Dud would use the rats as the tool, if he's been.
There is that vampiric control of animals sort of trick that could show up.
Oh yeah, that one's so like infrequently done.
Yeah,
that I completely forgot that was a vampire thing. I wonder if we'll see some of that. We did get Barlow being real obsessive about predators, so
that is sort of the thing he prodded him on, wasn't it? When he turned him, yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And like going back even further, the rat on the table when they dropped off the thing.
Yeah,
rats are important. It is the year of the rat.
That is true.
Yep. Zeph is gonna make a big comeback. Zeph music. But yeah, that was actually kind of a creepy scene. I don't know. I can't point to what creeped me out about it, but that whole section actually just kind of left me like a little bit of the willies, like half willy.
A half spook mass.
Oh, God. In the other the podcast I do with T, season only, cross promotion. I'd say I'm gonna cut this out, but I'm not going to.
Right.
I keep using the term half-mast, and it makes T super uncomfortable. It's the best. But yeah, and then we get like this real quick scene where back at the hospital. I think it's the last time we see Ben for this chapter. We hear from Ben because Susan calls him.
Yeah, that's actually at Ben's.
Oh,
he gets it on a phone next to his hospital bed.
Right.
Okay.
He
has the TV on.
So I'm just lying to you all. I am choosing to lie to you as the audience because I dislike you personally. God, I want to go on record real quick. I don't hate Robin Williams. I want to make that very clear. If the last episode and the way Alex set me the fuck up, I don't like Patch Adams, which realizing I probably shouldn't go on record saying that either.
Yeah.
But I do want to go on record. I like Robin Williams. Like, as much of a monster as you tried to make me sound like.
Yeah,
I'm still convinced you did that on purpose. But we get Ben peeking in on Matt, and I think Matt's asleep for all of this. And
because he just talks about how he looks, and he looks like that. He's for the first time he actually looks his age, and yada yada. Yeah, it's a pretty quick little.
And then he puts the rosary around Matt's neck. And I did like this bit where a nurse is like, is he Catholic? And I think it's the last words of the section. Ben's like, he is now. God. Oh, shit. Do you remember way back in high school? Sorry. Diversion time here. You remember way back in high school when there was like, it was like 3 or 4 days when I came in dressed like a priest?
Yeah.
It was just like a black button up and I just used a bit of white ribbon around my collar. Dude, I pissed off a lot of people with that.
That was always fun because wearing anything that was religiously potent or politically potent was always hilarious.
Yeah. Now, that actually ended up working in my favor because we were doing Canterbury Tales at the time. And we were supposed to bring in a visual. And I don't know if you remember high school well. I was a little bit of an underachiever. I don't know if you remembered that.
Yeah.
I happened to dress like a priest on the day I was supposed to give our Canterbury Tales presentation and had not prepped anything for it. My tale was the tale of the priest. Oh. So it just worked out. I do remember standing up in front of the class and one of the other students, I remember her name, but I'm not going to put it on here. I remember her just like staring at me staring daggers at me, which got me because she was Christian but not Catholic, where I was raised Catholic. So I felt like I was more in the okay mark here.
Yeah.
And I remember her raising her hand and looking at the teacher and being like, is he allowed to do that? It was just great. It's like weird. Sorry, random diversion. But yeah. And then we get back to, I'm so angry about this next section. I don't have them here, but I made cards for the people in this section and didn't put them on the board because I was like, I doubt they're going to be that important. The cheating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we jump back to Bonnie Sawyer.
This is interesting, yes.
Do you want to take this one?
So it's, I believe, started by describing Bonnie.
Right.
Because she's in an apron and high heels and nothing else.
God, I would rock that look. I think that might I'm going to make that my new look. That's my new aesthetic. I got that apron, like with the raccoon on the front. That, high heels, I'd be sexy.
If you're
going to
do that, just not when I'm coming over for the podcast or anything. Keep that,
The kicker on this is I was literally about to say, when I pick you up on next Thursday, I'm gonna... I got a whole week to learn how to drive in high heels. I'll get pulled over on the way to your house or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, I've ever told you about the weirdest time I've ever gotten pulled over? I know we're diverting a lot, but we really don't have much more. So bear with us, audience. We'll get through it, I promise. I was wearing a dinosaur onesie once while driving. I got pulled over. I was speeding maybe like 10 miles over. Cop walked up to my door, my car door, looks in, starts saying license and registration, and then just busts out laughing. And I just sat there quietly. He regains his composure and just went, just keep your speed down. Have a nice day. And just walked back to his car and drove off. I'm like, holy shit. You don't have to be rich to get away with anything. You just have to wear a dinosaur onesie.
It all makes sense.
Yep. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, I guess you are by wearing a dinosaur hat, I guess you're like godfathering yourself in pre-law.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm cold-blooded. Your laws mean nothing to me, peasant.
Exactly.
Come back when you have tiny arms. Ooh, the tiny arm of the law. I'm gonna write a role-playing game called that. It's gonna be about police T-Rexes.
I could see that.
Yeah. Bonnie being sexy.
Yeah. So she's dressed like that. Door rings. She opens it. It's exactly what it sounds like it is. It's one of those like, hey, Corey, the guy she's cheating on her husband with, gets to the door. As he was described before, and I believe he even says a bit into this, he turns into a complete fucking kid whenever she does this. So he's bumbling. What if this had been someone else? What if this? And she's like, oh, of course. What if it had been the telephone guy? Haha, giggle. Like the level of control she has and blubbering just absurdness that he has is and this carries all the way through. So basically, fondling at the door, go to the bedroom. She lays down. She tells him to keep the light on so she can see it. He starts to do stuff. Notices that her apron's still on. Tells her that he's like, take it off. She tells him to take it off. Then tells him to get on his knees. She's just manhandling him. And when he's down on his knees, sort of kissing up her thigh, we then get the transition to the husband standing in the doorway with a shotgun resting on his forearm, aimed at Corey on the ground.
Reggie Sawyer.
Yeah. And of
who's
course,
supposed to be out of town at this point.
Supposed to be in Vermont, I believe. Some other town, Vermont. And he's got this big shit-eating green look on his face.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically proceeds to humiliate both of them. Well, he actually does just beat her.
Oh, yeah.
But proceeds to humiliate Corey. First, his wife starts making up, he came in to rape me. He snuck his way in. The immediate guess, blame it on something, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah, and like the most thinly veiled, like, wait, I'm sorry, he broke in to rape you, and that is why you are in an apron and high heels?
And he's on his knees? Like,
I mean, that would fly for me, because that's just how I bake. But it is from now on.
I'm sure your mom's going to love that.
Oh, it's going to be great. I made you a quiche. Jeez. Could you put that away?
Where were we? Because that was...
yeah.
So he's got the gun thing, keeps telling her to stop. Corey's just begging for his life. Do whatever you want. Beat the shit out of me.
I think he's pissed his pants at this point.
Yeah, just beat the shit out of me. Do whatever you want. Just don't kill me. You don't want to go to jail. That's terrible. So he has Corey stand up.
Yeah, there's a moment, and I like this, where he's like, you know my dad? If I die, it's going to break his heart, and he's going to die. You'll be responsible for 2 murders. This scene has some fucked up stuff, but like that, this is another moment where Stephen King was just really, that desperate grasping at any straw begging for my life felt real. The last time
every one of the moments you keep saying that it feels legit is always makes King feel more unnerving, because you're just suggesting it's always the weirdest, worst stuff that he has such a familiarity with when he writes it. That it sounds so genuine.
Yeah.
It's a little odd to be like, oh, I genuinely wrote this situation.
Yeah.
But anyway, has Corey stand up, takes him out. It states that the husband's deliberately smiling, has lowered the gun a bit, so that he knows he won't harm him at least immediately. Tells his wife to stay in the room and wait on him. Takes Corey out to the living room. Has him.
He puts the gun, he has him is a double-barrel
shotgun. Kind of starts working up at first. Goes, you know what you did. You know that it was to be with my right to end you. Da 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 da. And then Corey's like, anything, just da da da. So he has him grab the barrel with his hand at first, then put it into his mouth, and then of course all the sexual innuendos that the husband could make against it.
Yep.
You know how this works.
I believe at this point he has already implied that he's going to shove the barrel inside his wife and pull the trigger.
Oh yeah, he said something like if she opened her mouth one more time, he was going to do that.
We start seeing little bits of The Stand from the future sneaking in.
Yeah,
shoot a rubber bullet up her. Never mind.
And I think at this point he actually shits himself. It states his sphincter loosens and he doesn't even realize it. It's something that's described.
Yep.
He puts the barrel in, has him close his eyes, pulls the trigger, pop. It's not actually loaded.
Yeah, by pop, you mean?
Yeah, not actually loaded. Corey faints to the floor, and then he tells Corey to get the hell out of here in this weird kind of segmented way, because he says that. And then he says, I'm coming for you, Bonnie, and she screams. And then it actually cuts away, and then we get it picked back up with the very end of that sequence in which he's actually leading Corey out of the house and states, go on like a little kid up the street, vanish. Bonnie's just gonna have to wear long trousers and long sleeve shirts for a while, but I didn't mess up her face. This is where he basically admits he beat the shit out of her.
I think he calls it breaking her in.
Yeah, of course.
And he's told Corey, you need to leave town.
Yeah. If I see you again, I will kill you.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of heading out, obviously shocked and felt like he was gonna die. And then this is where he bumps into old
Barlow.
Barlow,
because he's walking down the street, or Corey's walking down the street being like, okay, I'm leaving fucking town. I'm out of here.
It mentions that his grandma always, I think his grandma or whatever, always knew he was, commented on how he was such a good saver. He has all this money set aside. He could easily pay to move somewhere else and be fine until he found a job. He's immediately getting ready to leave.
He's like, I mean, not even stopping to get the money. He's like, I'm going to the bus, leaving, and I'm going to call and have them wire the money. I'm out.
But then old Barlow shows up and is, hey, how's it going?
And just straight up pulls an incel bullshit on him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, hey, haves and have-nots. I mean,
basically works him over by first offering him a cigarette, not giving his name, but then eventually giving his name by making all these remarks about Americans. You and your names. It's always the name that sells something. You want to buy a used car? My name's Bill Smith. Da, da, da.
It was a weird transition because it wasn't like Corey being like, hey, what's your name so I know if you're important? It was, someone's talking to me, you ask them your name. I have to assume that's fairly universal.
It is bizarre, but it seems to be the tool. Like he wants to imply American, foreigner, and then he wants to start playing with he starts playing with the concept of foreigner. Oh, but I could live in a city, but I won't live in a city because they're disconnected. They're from the. Do I want some dawdling fool who thinks he's great bumping into me or running me over? Now, only in a town do you work the soil with your hands and bring life up yourself, and only then are you still connected, and da 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 da, and like, and Corey's just like, yes, Yes, you're nailing it on the head, and that final nail on the head, I believe, is when he says the perspective. It's all ultimately based on perspective, right? And then I believe it says, he's like, yes, and it's like, at that moment, he kind of nailed it on the head. And this is the same thing with the dud, too.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I meant by the weirdness of baiting them before they do it, because then there's always this explicit gotcha moment that's always pointed out.
And that's why I think you might need to accept it.
It might be. Turn. But then once he's like that final yes, it then does the whole like, and then he fell to sleepiness, which is time itself, and the color of that time is red water.
Because the last the thing that finally pushes them there is the basically being it's incel bullshit. It's like, I mean, look at how much Reggie has. Shouldn't you be allowed to get a piece of that?
Yeah, it describes it as like scraps at a table, stuff like that. Yeah,
and then Corey's just like, no, yeah, maybe make me a vampire. I won't be a vampire.
Basically. Without knowing it, Reggie. Yeah.
So from there we get we jump from there. There's a couple more scenes. We get Susan calling Ben at the hospital.
Yeah, and this is just a call to state that who all is, I guess, died by this point has been discovered dead at this point. That would be
Floyd.
Yeah, because he's actually dead now.
Well, yeah, we know Mike's dead.
Yeah.
I think she mentions the Randy McDougal.
Yeah.
And Marjorie, right? Don't we find out she's dead at this point? Glick, Danny Glick's mom.
Yeah.
I think that's when we find out she's dead.
Yeah, maybe. That sounds right.
Spook notes. Sorry, we made that joke a couple episodes ago, and I was editing, and it got me that we need to start writing the spook notes.
So you keep the flair of the story in those kind of notes rather than the quick tidbits.
Yup. Nope. I'm wrong.
Okay.
No, it's just Randy and Floyd.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we do get pointed out that Corey, the doctor, not Corey, Cody. Come on, Stephen King. Come on. There are so many names. There's so many names. Do they have to be this similar?
Is the vampire's remark in the earlier chapter about the Americans' obsessions with names indirectly mocking us? Are we being told that our obsession with names when King doesn't care about them is...
You know what? That's it. From now on, we're going to follow Barlow's advice. We're not going to tell you the names of characters. Ever. But yeah, we find out that Dr. Cody said that Floyd died of acute anemia, which is a thing we've heard many times. Yeah. And Sue's like...
He couldn't get into the army, I think, because he had high blood pressure. There's no way he had anemia.
So...
Another one of these, come on, Susan. Can you just accept it now?
Yeah. And that's all that scene was, really. It's just like, hey, Ben.
Oh, it's an update / watching Ben get scared again, because he makes the comment that when he hangs up the phone, he describes that primal fear of like the
old
darkness
and terror.
Yeah, and that I think the final line is he looks up to see the comedy show on TV and is afraid.
It's and he looked at the television where Doris Day was giving a shaggy dog a bubble bath and was afraid.
Yeah. That contrast.
Doris Day scares the hell out of me, so I misread that. I don't actually know who Doris Day is. I've heard the term. The term. We're not supposed to be think names are important.
Right,
so.
That's true, right.
These are all improper nouns at this point. Then we get the morgue scene that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Which is basically, yeah, that was it. Infant Buddy said dully, Jesus Christ, I think we're in trouble. The accent's implied.
Right, yeah. Because that's what Northeastern America sounds like.
Yeah. I always forget. This is all Maine. I want to give all of these characters super Southern accents.
I think it's that town kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah. And then we have 2 more scenes that both focus on Mark, which we haven't seen Mark in a bit. I guess we got him a little bit in last time with his parents openly questioning whether or not he's a sociopath.
Yeah, through the vent, yeah.
But we get Mark being woken up by straight up Danny Glick tapping on his window, being like, "Hey, Mark,
hey, buddy, I want to play with you.
Can I come in?" Yeah. And there's this moment there where, first off, Mark ends up making Matt look like an idiot. Indirectly. Bear with me on this. So Danny tries to hypnotize Mark, and Mark's like, "Oh, I'm going to open that window. No, what the fuck am I doing?" And looks away. So Mark figures it out. immediately.
At first, trying to break it with what is it, alliteration? So it properly the first letter of the thing. He goes like sunny seashells by the sheet. He starts doing that in order to try to break free of.
I forgot. I wanted to say that. Like there was like a little poem in there that we have heard before. I've heard it in another book, and I know you've heard it in a movie because it's a thing that's used in It. I can't remember the kid's name. The kid who stutters.
Oh yeah.
It's the same like thing that he would say to build up his own courage. It was like I pressed my fist against the post and.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that is odd. I wonder if that's.
Yeah. Okay. It's to break it. Mark, let me in. I command it. He commands it. I forgot about that. He commands it.
Yeah, he does that several times. As I was saying, it has this weird cult-like element beyond just...
Yeah, so he starts with the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain, and then the one that is definitely used in It. In vain he thrusts his fists against the post and still insists he sees the ghost. Which I believe is like a speech therapy thing for stuttering.
Mm-hmm.
Mark doesn't have a stutter. Why does that come to mind? Whatever.
I guess it was just anything to concentrate on.
Betty Bitter bought some butter. Yep. Maybe Mark's just really into like.
I think what's weird here.
Drama?
I think what's weird here is weird before, which is essentially you're being given a kid who has like kind of just absurd reactions to things to a degree. Like it's just this kid is more centered, more self-aware, more reactive than just about every single person we've encountered in this entire book. Like the way he deals with this is essentially does that try to break free, and then he eventually looks down at his toys, finds the cross in the zombie graveyard thing, grabs it, and then goes, "Yeah, Matt, go ahead and come in, no problem." And then Matt gets this big grin on his face. Danny gets this big grin on his face, pops the window open, and starts slowly approaching, a few steps in. And as he's getting sort of within arm range, Mark just straight up smacks him in the face with the little plastic cross, and it's described as Danny's face goes from big goofy grin to just utter disgust in one swing, and that the cross not only burns his flesh because it describes it almost smoking, but that
smoke spurted from straight up smoke,
and then it's actually glowing. The cross actually starts to glow,
and then Mark felt the flesh yield like smoke, so it's not even like butter; it's just straight through his face.
Yeah.
Danny screams, and then the last bit in this section is we hear the lamp in the his parents' bedroom click on, and his dad go, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah.
And then we get a really short scene with Mark and his dad. His dad comes in to investigate.
He has the time. He straightens the room back up, closes the window, gets back into bed, and it's just quite simply a dad comes in and goes, "What's up?" "Nothing." "Sounded like you're having a nightmare." "Probably was." "Do you need a drink of water?" "No, I'm good." And then his dad eventually just turns around and leaves.
Yeah. And then Mark just like lays down in bed and goes the fuck to sleep. Like
specifically around that very flowery description of when other people would, talk about their trials and tribulations and the toughness of things. These are adult things. Children have to deal with the fear under their bed. They're never given a coping mechanism for it. And then I think that's where it ends with that's the difference between a boy and a man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to point out, like Mark unintentionally clowning on Matt here, is Matt way back when Danny's sneaking in the window getting Mike. Matt's like, "I need a crucifix. I need a crucifix." And Mark's just like, plastic cross? That'll do. Fuck you. So it seems like any cross works.
I think this is more and more confirming that this is the boy. Mark has to be the kid thing. Because it's like I don't know what other kid's going to get through it when Mark is just this on point every time anything's happening. Everyone else has been shitting the bed when a vampire shows up. And here's this kid, like, immediately trying to break the hypnosis, sees the cross, immediately plans. I mean, this is...
Straight up, I think the only person that's recognized they're being hypnotized.
Yeah.
The only person who has not given into it completely.
And from the same kind of sources say Matt in the sense that...
Matt did break it a little bit with Mike, right? Did Mike even try to hypnotize him, or did he just go?
I don't think he went anywhere with it. Yeah, because he says the teacher thing, but then he sort of breaks it in the sense that he kind of grabs that cross, and that sort of interrupts what he was doing to him. But No one's had the fortitude of this kid. That's at least for sure. Everyone else has just completely lost their mind when they've encountered something. Yeah. This is him encountering another kid who's a vampire, and it's just like, nope, get out.
Fuck your shit. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And like, not even mentioning it to his dad, just like, no, I must have called out my sleep. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the rest of the town is literally losing it. He's just like, it was a small interruption.
I know you get first pick, but if you don't take Mark, I might. At the end of all this,
I mean, it's pretty damn tempting. He's like, he has no powers, but somehow is easily the best ear.
Yeah. Shit's wild. But that's the end of our section. All in all, I liked it.
I think what I'm still hung up on is I want to see some pushback. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of tired of like I think the offensive has been set. Vampires are now out doing stuff. People are getting turned. I want to see some like mobilizing the other way.
Yeah.
I want to see this Ben, Matt group up, go poke at the house happen.
We have 3 chapters left of this section. I wonder if we're going to see this in this part. I wonder if we're going to see that in this part at all. I have a feeling that the next 3 chapters are going to be them trying to do some stuff, things going to hell, and then them leaving. And we're not really going to get the heroes, I'm air quoting the hell out of that, until part 3. I think they're going to leave town and then come back.
That's possible. It would match the beginning. Yeah.
You know, but I guess real quick, let's look at our board. We got Marjorie Glick's a vampire. We both guessed dead, so no points there.
Yeah.
We didn't have the foresight to put a 10-month-old child on the board.
So
no points there. I think that's it, right?
From this chapter, yeah, I think that's it.
No, because we didn't put Corey on the board.
Yeah, we basically, didn't. We kind of thought he was. This was one of that cheating scenario is one of the ones we had talked about on and I believe on podcast and off podcast quite a bit, is never seeming to pan into anything, and it literally got dropped on our lap this chapter.
Yeah. We've only heard these characters one other time
in the other lot. Yeah,
and so much of the lot stuff was set up to be like, look how shitty people are. So I was missed opportunity. I literally wrote their names on cards, and I was like, nah. Oh, man, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah,
I'm genuinely enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm holding out. I like I said, the mob thing is but I think a cool come back and do something about it would fix a lot of that to me.
Right. Anything else we want to get into before we close this one off? Oh, I guess we should tell what we're doing next.
So we're finishing the part.
Yeah. So it's chapters
11, 12, and 13. Yep.
Which, let's see what those are called. We got us a Ben for 4. Yeah, I can read Roman numerals, I promise. Then we get a Mark 1.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
That's interesting.
And then we get a Father Callahan 1. So that's what we're in for.
That definitely sounds like the 3 chapters you imagine taking action back.
Yep.
Those are the 3 people you imagine it happening with.
Yeah. Trying to think of a good outro. Until next time, names aren't important.
Yeah, there you go.
And you've read the book? I get all disappointed on the times you don't go, yeah, at the end. Let's do that again. Because you normally do, but there's a couple where you don't. Like, when I'm editing, I'm like, oh, no, yeah. I almost edited in a yeah from another episode because it just felt so wrong. So we're going to take that one again. Until next time, I've been a Until next time, names aren't important, and you read the book.
Yeah.
Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network, and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear, or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend, or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people, and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.